The episode begins not with the main character, but with a segment from a food show displayed on a screen. An enthusiastic host, identified by his speech pattern ending in Moko, stands before the camera, introducing viewers to an egg shop directly managed by Madoka Farm in Hokkaido. He highlights the freshness of their eggs and announces the intention to prepare an original dish, Nama Omurichi, essentially a variation of tamago kake gohan, raw egg mixed with rice. The host emphasizes the quality of the egg, demonstrating how the yolk holds its shape when picked up, presenting this as proof of its freshness. He proceeds to demonstrate the simple recipe, first mixing the egg thoroughly in a bowl, then adding unspecified seasonings, followed by cooked rice and mixing everything together. The final step involves drizzling ketchup over the mixture, completing the raw omurice. The host eagerly prepares to taste the dish. After taking a bite, he exclaims with delight, noting that while the overall flavor profile strongly resembles standard cooked omurice, the view shifts to Mako Kawai, a young woman in her apartment, watching this food segment on her phone. She glances at the time, remarking internally that it's gotten late, and resolves to make dinner. Transitioning to her small kitchen space, Mako begins her own meal preparation. The aroma of cooking rice soon fills the air and she inhales appreciatively. Her dinner mirrors the dish from the show. She prepares a bowl of rice and adds a raw egg to it. Before eating, she performs the customary Japanese pre-meal ritual, itadakimasu, expressing gratitude for the food. Taking her first bite, she recognizes the taste and texture, echoing the food show host's assessment by identifying it as the raw omurice and finding it genuinely delicious. She revels in the simple happiness of quickly consuming the satisfying meal. As she eats, or shortly after, an internal narration introduces Mako Kawai. She identifies herself as a first-year university student who has just begun living alone this year. She describes her personality as inherently quiet, striving to live her days uneventfully, and avoid causing any disturbances or drawing attention from those around her. Despite this reserved nature, her narration reveals a deep-seated passion that truly excites her, the acts of cooking and eating food. However, she reflects on a significant gap in her experience. She has never dined out in a restaurant by herself. During her time living at home, any restaurant visits were always accompanied by her parents. Now, living independently, her routine consists entirely of cooking for herself. Compounding this is her lack of close friends with whom she might share a meal out. She acknowledges a level of anxiety about the prospect of solo dining, but reasons that it's an experience she probably ought to have as part of growing up and becoming more independent. To bolster her courage for potential future attempts, she silently calls upon an inner persona she refers to as Mokotaro. She pauses before one restaurant, but quickly deems it too difficult or intimidating to enter by herself and decides to look elsewhere. She approaches another establishment. Observing the number of people already present, she concludes it's too crowded and opts to move on again. Her attention is then caught by a third restaurant. It looks appealing to her. As she hesitates near the entrance, the proprietress then notices Mako lingering and, perhaps assuming she is interested in the popular dish, apologetically informs her that the sauce katsudon is unfortunately sold out for the day. Startled and flustered by the direct address and the perceived assumption, Mako quickly denies wanting the dish, assures the proprietress she is leaving immediately, and scurries away, being shy. Walking away from the restaurant district, Mako feels dejected by her failure. She laments internally that her attempt was unsuccessful, even after trying to draw strength from her inner Mokotaro, whom she now deems disappointingly weak. This failure prompts a moment of introspection. She wonders when she became so timid and hesitant. She recalls her elementary school days, remembering a time when she had many friends and found daily life full of new and exciting discoveries. She reflects that, as she grew older, a fear of trying new things and potentially failing took root. This led her to avoid forming deep interpersonal connections and to settle into a lifestyle focused on maintaining a bland, unchanging status quo. She concedes, however, that she doesn't entirely dislike the peaceful predictability of these quiet days. The setting shifts to the university campus. A lecture concludes. 3 female students, Shino Ogawa, Higatsutsuji, and Furuta Kureya, are engaged in a lively but unsuccessful negotiation with a university clerk. The clerk sternly reiterates the university regulation. Forming a new club requires a minimum of 4 members. Food Culture Research Club was rejected precisely because they only had 3 members. Shino pleads their case, lamenting their inability to recruit a 4th member and questioning why 3 shouldn't suffice. Shino then declares they haven't come unprepared and signals to Tsutsuji. Tsutsuji formally presents the clerk with a small envelope. The clerk, Mayumi Uta, looks absolutely uninterested and ready to expel them, but still asks what it is. Tsutsuji explains that giving money felt inappropriate, so instead, they've placed gold-colored origami paper inside as a gift, urging her to accept it. The clerk flatly refuses. Undeterred, Shino bizarrely asks if perhaps she prefers aurora-patterned origami, completely missing the nature of her objection. Shino adopts a more dramatic, pleading tone, questioning if the clerk truly wants them to miss out on the fun of circle life, forcing them to only focus on attending classes and studying for tests. The clerk confirms that, yes, they absolutely should do those things. Shino counters, framing the circle as a necessary outlet for relaxation in order to fulfill their academic duties. The clerk remains firm, repeating his refusal. Shino theatrically closes her eyes, expressing a wish that when she opens them, she'll be in a reality where the clerk possesses a more generous heart. The clerk, unmoved, shouts his refusal one last time. Defeated, the trio walks away from the counter, while Tsutsuji realistically points out they made no progress at all. Changing the subject, Tsutsuji notes it's lunchtime and suggests they eat their packed lunches. They find a place to sit. As they begin to eat, Shino brings the conversation back to the club situation, asking Tsutsuji what their next steps should be. Shino explains she's already asked everyone they know, but while discussing this, Mako takes a bite of her homemade dashimaki tamago, but notices one of the girls from the trio, Shino, staring intently in her direction. This immediately triggers Mako's self-consciousness. She internally scrambles, wondering if she did something strange, mentally reviewing her appearance. Are her clothes odd? Is there something wrong with her omelet? She tries to dismiss these thoughts as self-conscious paranoia. However, the girl doesn't just look. Shino gets up and starts walking directly toward Mako. Shino reaches Mako and addresses her tentatively, using a familiar nickname, Makochi? Mako is stunned, wondering how this stranger knows her personal nickname. Tsutsuji calls over, asking Shino if she knows the girl. Shino confirms, stating she definitely recognizes her, then clarifies to Mako, "It's me. We were in elementary school together." She repeats the nickname, Makochi. Mako then recalls Shino's own distinctive elementary school nickname, Oshinko, meaning pickles. Shino reacts with visible embarrassment, insisting Mako not use that old name, especially since nobody else knows it. Tsutsuji and Kureha overhear and find the nickname amusing. Shino expresses her surprise at finding Mako at the same university, a sentiment Mako verbally echoes. Shino asks Mako what she's been doing lately. She then politely turns the question back to Shino. Shino enthusiastically recounts her recent activity, attempting to establish the Food Culture Research Club with Tsutsuji and Kureha, mentioning their just-failed application attempt. At this point, Tsutsuji and Kureha formally introduce themselves to Mako. Higa Tsutsuji, a much softer-spoken girl, and Furuta Kureha, a reliable person with a big sister-like personality who leads the laid-back club members. Mako reciprocates, and offering a polite greeting. A sudden realization strikes Shino. She points out that their club application only needs one more member to be approved. She excitedly turns to Mako and spontaneously invites her to join the Food Culture Research Club. After a moment of visible hesitation, she politely declines, explaining that she hadn't been considering joining any circles. Shino immediately apologizes for being so abrupt, attributing her forwardness to the excitement of their unexpected reunion. Later that day, Mako returns to her apartment. She reflects on the day's surprising encounter, still amazed that Shino attends the same university. She notes that Shino seemed just as energetic and unchanged from her elementary school days. A wave of anxiety washes over her as she worries whether she appeared overly awkward or said anything strange during the interaction due to her nervousness. The scene shifts again. Mako is finishing a shift at her part-time job, working at an oinari shop owned by a middle-aged woman. Her supervisor informs her she can leave for the day. Feeling tired from work, Mako decides against cooking and plans to buy dinner on her way home. As she walks, she finds herself once again passing by the restaurant that serves sauce katsudon. She looks at the picture on display, still finding it tempting. Suddenly, a familiar figure emerges from the restaurant. It's Furuta Kureha. Kureha recognizes Mako almost immediately and calls out to her. Mako asks why Kureha is there. Kureha clarifies that the restaurant is run by her mother and that she works there part-time to help out. She adds that she had just stepped out to buy some condiments from a nearby supermarket. Without hesitation, Kureha warmly invites Mako to come inside and eat, assuring her the food is delicious. Mako experiences another internal conflict. Her ingrained desire to maintain the status quo and avoid potential awkwardness or new situations urges her to decline. But then, she gets a whiff of the food and her desire to eat overtakes her hesitation. She decides to go inside. Kureha leads Mako inside, welcoming her warmly and telling her to choose any seat. Shortly after Mako sits down, Kureha's mother approaches the table. The mother politely thanks Mako for looking after Kureha. Mako responds with equal politeness, but feels awkward having only just met Kureha today, and tells Mako to signal her when she's ready to order, then leaves to help another customer in the loud restaurant. Mako overhears what the customer is ordering: ontama, soft-boiled egg. In quick succession, more orders for source katsudon are placed by other customers. Mako observes the dish's immense popularity, recalling the earlier instance when it was sold out, along with the proprietress's initial comment to her. Now determined not to miss out again, she gathers her courage to call the proprietress over. But unlike the other customers who shout out their orders, Mako shyly raises her hand timidly. Luckily, she manages to get the mother's attention and places her order, specifically requesting the source katsudon. However, the mother apologizes profusely, explaining that the very last portion was just claimed by the previous orders and it's now completely sold out. Mako's face falls in disappointment. Just then, Kureha emerges from the kitchen, informing her mother that Grandpa is calling for her. Kureha asks what happened. Her mother explains that Mako had wanted the source katsudon, but it just ran out. Without missing a beat, Kureha turns to Mako and generously offers her own staff meal portion of source katsudon that she was planning to eat. Mako hesitates, asking if Kureha is sure it's okay. Kureha insists it's fine and asks Mako her preference for the egg topping. Mako gets to watch the cooking process, and you can tell this is where the animation budget went. After a short wait, Kureha returns from the kitchen carrying a steaming bowl. Mako expresses her thanks. Before digging in, she says, "Itadakimasu." The dish looks appetizing. A large, crispy pork cutlet rests on a bed of shredded cabbage and rice, generously coated in dark sauce and crowned with a perfectly soft-boiled egg. Mako eagerly breaks the egg, letting the golden yolk run down over the cutlet and rice. She takes a bite, and her expression shows pure satisfaction. She savors the combined flavors and textures: the crunchy coating of the cutlet, the savory sweet sauce, the tender pork, the richness of the egg yolk, and the crisp freshness of the cabbage, providing balance. Upon finishing the entire bowl, she places her chopsticks down and expresses her satisfaction and gratitude. Kureha soon returns to clear the empty bowl. Mako thanks her again. As Kureha picks up the dish, she initiates a conversation. She mentions that after their encounter at the university earlier, Shino had been talking about Mako almost non-stop, relaying how Shino was lamenting having forgotten to ask for Mako's contact information. Hearing this genuinely surprises and pleases Mako. She confesses that she too had been regretting not exchanging contact details. Seizing the opportunity, Kureha offers to pass Mako's contact information along to Shino. Curious, Kureha asks Mako what Shino was like back in elementary school. Mako looks away, wondering how best to describe Shino, saying she was always running around. A brief, warm-toned visual flashback shows a younger, energetic Shino playfully running with Mako chasing after her, but giving up. Kureha smiles, unsurprised, remarking that Shino seems fundamentally unchanged. With the meal finished and the conversation wrapped up, Mako prepares to leave. She stands up and expresses her gratitude to Kureha one last time, emphasizing how delicious the source katsudon was. Kureha replies that she's glad Mako enjoyed it. Kureha calls out her name. Mako turns back, surprised. Kureha offers a friendly smile and says, "See you at university." Mako seems momentarily taken aback by the casual statement, but then a small smile forms on her face, calling back to her. Lying on her bed, Mako feels genuinely glad she decided to go inside. She thinks about Kureha's kindness and generosity. The knowledge that Shino was eager to get her contact information and wasn't put off by their earlier awkward interaction significantly eases her social anxieties. She realizes her persistent fears of being disliked or judged the Food Culture Research Club. She starts to wonder more seriously about it. Could joining them lead to opportunities to eat various interesting foods, or even try different kinds of cooking together? A spark of hope ignites within her. Two girls text for a bit. The final scene jumps forward slightly in time, back on the university campus. Mako is walking when Shino suddenly pops up behind her, startling her. Brimming with excitement, Shino announces fantastic news. Mako's agreement to join was the key. Because Mako became the fourth member, their application for the Food Culture Research Club was officially approved. Shino adds that they've been given access to their club room and enthusiastically invites Mako to come see it with them right away, just as the other girls catch up to them. With infectious energy, Shino rallies the group to head over to the newly acquired club room together. The four students walk across campus toward a slightly older, detached building surrounded by pleasant greenery. Shino comments that while it's a bit far from the main lecture halls, the abundance of nature is nice. Kureha specifies their assigned room, first floor, at the far left end. Mako gazes at the building, her mind filling with hopeful images of future activities, cooking together, sharing meals, enjoying camaraderie within these walls. In contrast, Tsutsuji expresses her primary delight, finally having a dedicated space on campus where she can simply relax and slack off. Mako catches Shino's comment about slacking off and asks for clarification. Shino turns to Tsutsuji, asking slightly accusingly if she hadn't explained the club's real purpose to Mako. She explains that their actual motivation was simply wanting a comfortable private room on campus where they could hang out, completely shattering Mako's expectations. Would you like a more humorous or more emotional tone for this scene? Since the club doesn't actually involve cooking, Mako inquires about its intended purpose. Shinon, with characteristic dramatic flair, deflects the question, declaring that discovering the club's true objective is a journey they will all undertake together. Swiftly changing the subject before further probing, she enthusiastically suggests they inspect their newly assigned club room. Kureha sees this isolation positively, remarking that it affords them the freedom to act as they please without disturbing others. Mako notices it's equipped with a sink, while Kureha points out a nearby table. Before they enter, Kureha pauses to ask Mako if she had specifically hoped the club would involve cooking. Mako clarifies her assumptions stemmed purely from the club's name, Food Culture Research Club. Kureha then asks if Mako is proficient at cooking. Mako modestly downplays her abilities. Despite this, Kureha expresses admiration, admitting she herself only cooks occasionally as part of her part-time job. Shinon then impatiently urges Mako and Kureha to catch up, as she and Tsutsuji have moved slightly ahead. Standing before the door, Shinon grandly announces their arrival at their castle, the club room. With a flourish, she throws the door open, only to be blasted by a wave of dusty air. The sight that greets them is far from majestic. The room is visibly neglected, coated in dust, festooned with extensive cobwebs, and littered with old trash. Faced with this reality, Shinon dramatically pivots and declares that the club's true purpose, effective immediately, is to clean the club room. However, she promptly adds that this activity is scheduled for the following day. Kureha dryly notes that if cleaning is their sole designated activity, the club's existence might effectively end tomorrow after completing the task. The next day, after her classes, a tired Mako yawns while walking through the university grounds. Suddenly, Tsutsuji pops up from behind. By accident, Mako elbows her and sends the smaller girl flying. Tsutsuji apologizes for startling her, humorously stating she lost the physical battle. Mako, recovering, asks if Tsutsuji is all right. Tsutsuji assures her she's perfectly fine, explaining that her backpack cushioned the impact and her forehead. Tsutsuji then asks if Mako has finished her classes for the day and proposes they head to the club room together. As they walk, Mako internally struggles to recall Tsutsuji's full name. She mentally notes her own tendency to forget names easily and attempts to create a nickname, playing with the sounds of Higa Tsutsuji and briefly landing on the similar-sounding Hitsuji-chan, Little Sheep, before dismissing it. Arriving near the designated club area, they find Shinon and Kureha already present. Shinon greets them, asking if they just arrived. This prompts Mako and Tsutsuji to sheepishly admit they both forgot to bring any cleaning supplies. Shinon, however, reveals she anticipated this possibility. With a triumphant grin, she explains she preemptively raided other club rooms and borrowed the necessary equipment. Mako remarks, impressed on Shinon's high level of social skills. The cleaning commences. Inside the room, Shinon picks up a discarded plastic bottle cap. Playfully adopting the persona of a baseball pitcher, she calls out to Tsutsuji, who understands the challenge and mimes a wind-up before tossing the cap towards her. Shinon declares herself the winner of the first throw. She then mockingly suggests Tsutsuji could use the handle of a dustpan as a bat for the next round. Tsutsuji calmly accepts the challenge, warning Shinon not to complain or make excuses when she inevitably loses the next round. Shinon tosses the cap and Tsutsuji manages to hit it, but it lands in Kureha's hair. Their game is abruptly interrupted. The girls hope she doesn't notice, and for a moment it seems to work, until Kureha reminds them they're supposed to be cleaning, not playing. Mako, witnessing this, looks as if she's seen a crime scene. The next moments are spent with Shinon trying to get the cap out of Kureha's hair without her noticing. But in the end, Kureha finds out and sternly tells her to get back to work. Later, the cleaning is completed. Shinon stretches and declares the room finally ready for them to relax and lounge around in, stating they can simply bring items from home to furnish it. Mako asks for clarification on what types of items they should bring. Shinon suggests anything related to their hobbies or personal interests. Noting the time, she concludes the day's activities. Everyone agrees to the plan. That evening, Mako finds herself at home, on her phone, watching a cooking video. The thought occurs to her that it would be wonderful if they could make food like that in their new club. However, she immediately doubts the feasibility, considering the lack of cooking facilities in the room they just cleaned. She then ponders what personal item she should bring to the club room for the next gathering. Eventually, she snaps back to reality after dropping her phone, looking intently at her kettle. At the next club meeting, Mako arrives to find Kureha has already made a significant contribution, a large foldable table retrieved from storage at her family home. Kureha then asks Shinon what she brought. Shinon proudly displays her items, a game console, several plastic model kits, and card games. Kureha reacts with mild exasperation, pointing out that these are all purely toys for goofing off. Shinon defensively reminds Kureha that she explicitly gave everyone permission to bring things they liked. Kureha concedes the point. Tsutsuji enters, struggling with two items: a very large, soft object resembling a plush toy and a black instrument case. She thanks the others for holding the door open. Shinon immediately asks about the massive plushie. Tsutsuji gently corrects her, explaining it's not a toy, but a sofa known for its extreme comfort. Mako mentally reaffirms her Sheep-chan nickname observation. Kureha then inquires about the black case. Kureha expresses interest, asking Tsutsuji to play for them sometime. Finally, Shinon turns to Mako, asking what she brought. Mako presents an electric kettle. She explains her reasoning. She thought it would allow them to make tea together in the club room. She also reveals she brought tea bags and paper cups, proposing they have some tea right away. Shinon sips hers and comments on how relaxing the moment feels. Their peaceful tea time is suddenly interrupted by a knock at the door. It's the clerk from the front desk who apologizes for disturbing them. She introduces herself implicitly by stating her purpose. She is there to conduct an activity check on the Food Culture Research Club. The members react with collective surprise, shocked and alarmed. They all know this is a fake club. Kureha takes charge of the situation, stepping into a leadership role when it comes to matters like this, while Shinon nervously tries to offer the woman tea, treating her like royalty out of fear. Mayumi Uta accepts the tea and explains that the visit is exactly what it sounds like. Every so often, people create fake clubs with convoluted names and no real activities, so the administration performs check-ins on new clubs. Shinon, almost in a monotone, says it's hard to believe there are slippery jerks like that out there. The others panic upon hearing Shinon speak, knowing she's not great at handling these matters. She then asks, out of pure curiosity, what would happen to such people as punishment. Mayumi tells her that the club would be disbanded, and the same would happen to their club if she returns tomorrow and finds nothing representing actual club activities. As soon as the woman leaves, Shinon dramatically makes a scene, jumping off her chair in panic and rolling on the floor. She insists she didn't know any of this would happen and wonders aloud what to do. Kureha calmly interjects, reminding Shinon that the club was her idea. Shinon attempts to deflect responsibility, but Tsutsuji promptly sets the record straight. She reveals that she was the one who actually submitted the official circle application because Shinon had neglected to do so. To support her claim, Tsutsuji explains that she carefully detailed potential club activities and even took a photo of the application form for reference. Producing her phone, she shows the group the image. At that moment, Mako quietly speaks up, expressing a tentative interest. Maybe she'd like to try cooking. The group quickly assesses their culinary abilities. Tsutsuji admits she's completely hopeless in the kitchen. Using the word, Kureha offers to assist Mako, saying she doesn't dislike cooking. Mako, though, confesses she isn't particularly confident. Kureha reassures her, emphasizing that perfection isn't the goal. They should simply enjoy the process together. Shinon makes a decisive call. All right, it's settled. We'll cook, she declares. Then comes the obvious problem, equipment. Tsutsuji asks where they're going to get the necessary tools. Shinon optimistically wonders if the university has a home economics classroom they could borrow, but Tsutsuji confirms it doesn't. Mako notes that her electric kettle won't get them very far. Unfazed, Shinon vows to somehow procure the needed supplies by tomorrow. Kureha, skeptical, asks if she has any funds, or even a plan. Shinon cheerfully admits she has neither, but insists they leave everything to her. With that dubious promise, she dismisses the group for the day. The next day, Mako and Kureha wait anxiously outside the supermarket. Neither Shinon nor Tsutsuji is answering their phones. Mako mentions she brought an apron and her own frying pan from home, just in case. Kureha points out, not unreasonably, that a frying pan is useless without a heat source. Mako concedes, adding that their only known source of heat is still her electric kettle. They brainstorm. Mako suggests instant cup noodles. Kureha proposes making Japanese soft-boiled eggs by carefully timing their soak in hot water from the kettle. Just as their options seem limited, Mako's phone rings. It's Shinon. She greets Mako cheerfully and asks if Kureha is also present. Shinon apologizes for not answering earlier calls, explaining she was busy. Then she triumphantly announces her success. She has managed to acquire all the necessary cooking equipment. Mako expresses surprise and asks how. Shinon explains she went around to various other clubs and research labs, asking for and receiving unused or unwanted cooking appliances. Mako confirms she understands and hangs up, greatly relieved that Kureha asks Mako what dish they should prepare. Kureha initially suggests a safe and standard option, like curry. Mako seems slightly hesitant or unenthusiastic about this simple choice. She pulls out her smartphone, shows Kureha a cooking video she has saved, and proposes they attempt to make the specific dish featured in it. Kureha watches the video clip, her eyes lighting up. She agrees enthusiastically, declaring they should definitely make that. Shortly after, Mako and Kureha arrive, seeing the room covered in an assortment of random items and cooking appliances. Kureha notices another pile of items Shinon brought along, various unrelated objects. She asks what this extra collection is. Shinon casually explains it's miscellaneous junk that other clubs no longer wanted, so she took it off their hands. Mako and Tsutsuji head towards the sink area outside the room to begin washing the dishes. As they wash, their preparations are observed by the administrator, who has returned. She approaches them, noting with apparent approval that they are actively engaged in an activity. Shinon greets her boisterously and formally informs her that they are currently undertaking club activities. The administrator acknowledges this, and Shinon specifically points out Mako and Kureha washing dishes, hoping that this alone will be enough to justify keeping the club. The administrator then asks to inspect the club room's interior again. Inside, she observes the significant increase in furnishings and items since her visit the previous day. Shinon boasts about how much more it resembles a proper club room now. The administrator's gaze falls upon a pile of junk in the corner, prompting her to ask about it. Shinon nonchalantly replies, "Ingredients." The administrator lets out a small sigh, remarking on Shinon's tendency to speak without thinking, before asking directly if they actually purchased food ingredients. Mako steps forward and confirms that they bought groceries at a nearby supermarket just moments ago and are about to start cooking. Satisfied, the administrator notes that cooking is indeed listed as a potential activity on their official application. She declares that this demonstration is sufficient evidence of legitimate club activity. Shinon lets out a triumphant cheer. However, the administrator then holds up a portable cassette gas stove, which isn't allowed inside club buildings. The group's expressions falter. She informs them that while they can use the surrounding area, they must take the stove outside. This serves as a warning, and she asks that they check with the administration next time before bringing such items. She adds that since she personally witnessed their preparations today, it's acceptable for this instance. As she walks away, she stops and says that she knows this club is fake, but as long as they keep up appearances with their activities, they'll be fine. Kureha isn't surprised, she figured it out. Shinon and Kureha finish setting up a makeshift cooking station in the designated outdoor area. Tsutsuji then speaks on behalf of herself and Shinon, stating they would likely be more of a hindrance than a help during the actual cooking process. Therefore, she proposes that they dedicate themselves to diligently washing all the dishes and utensils as they're used. Tsutsuji offers to play her ukulele while Mako and Kureha cook, and Shinon enthusiastically encourages her to do so. Tsutsuji begins to strum a gentle melody. It sounds like something out of an episode of SpongeBob. With the cooking station ready and background music established, Mako declares, "Okay, starting to cook." First, Mako and Kureha finely mince onions. Next, they slice wiener sausages into roughly 1 centimeter thick rounds. In a large frying pan set over the cassette stove, they combine uncooked rice, the prepared onions and sausages, appropriate seasonings, presumably including curry powder, water, and a secret ingredient revealed to be apple juice. They turn off the heat. They then place a whole wheel of camembert cheese directly on top of the hot pilaf in the center of the pan. The lid goes back on, allowing the residual heat to steam and slightly melt the cheese. After a few minutes of resting, the dish is finished with a sprinkle of chopped fresh parsley and the careful addition of a freshly made onsen tamago, the visually appealing and aromatic camembert curry pilaf. Let's eat and eagerly take their first bites. Tsutsuji expresses genuine surprise and delight at how incredibly delicious the dish is, especially considering it was made entirely in a single frying pan. Shinon excitedly shortens the dish's name to Mako watches their reactions, a warm expression of happiness and relief spreading across her face as she hears their positive feedback, feeling that her decision to speak up and cook was a resounding success. After finishing the satisfying meal, the group relaxes. Shinon leans back. Kureya then suggests that since their circle is now officially recognized and active, they should take a commemorative photograph together. The idea is met with enthusiastic agreement. Shinon takes charge of organizing the photo, telling everyone to gather closer. Thank you for the meal, noting it's the counterpart to itadakimasu as the picture is taken. Later that evening, Shinon shares the group photo in the newly created chat group. Tsutsuji quickly responds, thanking Shinon for the photo and adding that she eagerly looks forward to eating Mako's cooking again soon. Mako reads these messages on her phone, a gentle smile forming. She reflects internally that she, too, wants to cook again. As the episode concludes, Mako considers her experience. She finds herself thinking that perhaps being part of this circle is actually quite enjoyable. The episode begins with Mako Kawai looking thoughtfully at her phone. She reflects internally on the enjoyment she derived from cooking and eating recently, musing that perhaps she should have captured more photographs of the experience. Her contemplation is interrupted by the notification sound of her phone. She sees it's a group message from her friend Shinon. Shinon's message proposes an outing for the upcoming weekend for their group of friends, suggesting a budget of around 3,000 yen per person and instructing everyone to prepare the money. Mako acknowledges the message. Kureya Furutachi observes Tsutsuji, Tsutsurakawa, sipping from a can of energy drink. Mako comments on Tsutsuji's noticeable fondness for them. Tsutsuji confirms this, adding that she essentially lives for her ukulele and energy drinks. Kureya then brings up the weekend plans, asking where they intend to go. She notes that Shinon, the one who proposed the outing, hasn't arrived yet and decides they should wait for her before finalizing the destination. Kureya checks with the others if the 3,000 yen budget is manageable. Mako affirms that it is, mentioning she has a part-time job. Curious, Tsutsuji asks Mako about her job. Mako reveals she works at a shop selling inarizushi, fried tofu pouches filled with sushi rice. Kureya remarks that this means Mako also works in the customer service industry, just like her. However, Mako quickly clarifies that her customer service skills are poor, leading to her being moved from the cash register to a backroom position, so she doesn't feel as all-around qualified. Just then, Shinon bursts into the room, clearly late and very much in a panic, crying. She wastes no time. Her money is gone. Kureya, ever the calm one, asks her what happened. Shinon clarifies, it's not just any money. It's her secret stash of 5,000 yen that's mysteriously vanished from her home. She pleads for their help, explaining that without it, she won't be able to join the weekend outing. Kureya questions what will happen if they leave her to this problem. Shinon darkly says she'll haunt their memories forever if they refuse. Mako sighs. Most people go for haunting dreams. Memories is a bit avant-garde. She reassures Shinon not to cry and promises they'll help search. Tsutsuji chimes in as well, adding that she'll join once she finishes her energy drink. Shinon is happy to hear this, but Kureya tells her not to push her luck. Shinon leads the group to her apartment. As they walk, Mako finds herself quietly reflecting. Visiting a friend's home felt oddly reminiscent of elementary school. Upon arrival, the door opens to reveal a room in disarray. Kureya takes it in immediately, commenting on the sheer density of clutter. Shinon, without missing a beat, insists that every item serves a purpose. Almost immediately, Tsutsuji's attention lands on a jack-in-the-box sitting atop a shelf. Shinon admits to purchasing it on a whim and offers it to her. Tsutsuji, undeterred, accepts the toy with enthusiasm. Focus returns to the task at hand. Kureya asks where Shinon last saw the money. Shinon corrects her. It wasn't exactly lost. She had simply forgotten where she'd hidden it. The explanation follows. That month, money had been tight. Shinon had separated the 5,000 yen she had on hand, allocating 3,000 for the planned outing and 2,000 for living expenses. Wanting to avoid temptation, she'd decided to stash it somewhere safe. As a failsafe, she'd created a clue. With exaggerated flourish, she points to the ceiling, where a small slip of paper is taped. Mako looks at it, noting the handwriting is nearly illegible in its minuteness. Tsutsuji comically leans in closer and deciphers the message. The sealed red thing. The room falls briefly silent. Kureya frowned. The clue was vague at best. Shino defended her system, explaining that it was meant as a form of physical encryption. Pressed for clarity, Shino confessed she no longer remembered what the sealed red thing referred to. Mako, ever pragmatic, suggested they simply begin searching for anything red. The group scanned the room. Despite the abundance of objects, nothing red stood out as an obvious candidate, and so the treasure hunt began. Tsutsuji proposed a more lateral approach, suggesting the clue might reference something metaphorically red. The The thought triggered something in Shino's memory. She retrieved a cardboard box filled with old-school papers. Korea picked out a test where Shino had scored an abysmal 13%. Tsutsuji read out one of the questions she missed, a question about the discoverer of universal gravitation. Shino had simply written, apple. Mako, meanwhile, noticed something affixed to the back of that particular test, a small handwritten note. The second clue read, inside a spinning tube. Korea's patience visibly thinned as the layers of Shino's self-imposed puzzle grew increasingly elaborate. Tsutsuji, focusing on the latest clue, offered a quiet deduction. The rotating cylinder might refer to the cardboard tube inside a toilet paper roll. The group relocated to the bathroom to investigate. There, lodged inside the core of a used toilet paper roll, Korea discovered the third and final clue. Tsutsuji allowed herself a subdued moment of triumph. The note read, treasure is that which looks down from heaven. Excited by this newfound certainty, Shino climbed to the loft and opened the drawer. It was empty. She then checked all of her drawers and found them all empty. She descended in disbelief, searching for answers. Tsutsuji hesitantly suggested a misremembering. Shino rejected the idea outright, convinced her recollection was accurate. Shino closed her eyes and began to piece it together in a sequence of fragmented recollections. She had budgeted her funds 3,000 yen for the outing, 2,000 yen for basic expenses. The remaining 5,000 yen she resolved to hide to avoid the temptation of spending it. She remembered crafting the elaborate three-part puzzle. She remembered designating the loft drawer as the final destination. Then the memory shifted. Exhausted by the process, she had decided to rest, planning to place the money in the drawer the following morning. But when she awoke, the entire puzzle, the clues, the hiding spot, the money itself, had vanished from her memory. In the end, she had never actually placed the money there at all. Listening to this detailed recollection, Mako gently pointed out the implication. Based on Shino's own account, it seemed she went through the entire process of creating the clues, but neglected the final, most important step, actually hiding the 5,000 yen note. Shino initially protested, denying she could be that absent-minded. Sheepchan suggested that Shino should, just to be absolutely certain, check her wallet. While Shino reluctantly retrieved it, Tsutsuji kindly offered to lend her 3,000 yen if the money truly wasn't found. Shino opened her wallet and, to her immense embarrassment, found the 5,000 yen note safely tucked inside. She profusely thanked her friends for their time and effort in the unnecessary search. With the financial crisis averted, Korea confirmed it was good the money had been located and asked if they had decided on a destination for their outing. Shino revealed she had been considering a hike on Mount Takao. She mentioned the potential for nice views and eating snacks from various stalls along the way. The mention of food alongside beautiful scenery immediately grabbed Mako's attention, her eyes lighting up. She enthusiastically agreed to the Mount Takao plan. Later, Mako contemplated the upcoming trip alone. She expressed some apprehension about the physical demands of hiking, admitting she wasn't very athletic. However, her thoughts shifted to a positive association. Specifically, she remembered a video where Mokotaro documented a challenging hike up Mount Takao, falling many times on the stairs, but motivated primarily by the promise of eating at a particular soba, buckwheat noodle, shop near the summit. Mako remembered Mokotaro being moved to tears upon finally reaching the shop. Inspired by this memory, Mako resolved to visit that same soba shop herself, feeling newly motivated for the hike. Mako happens to board the same train as Tsutsuji. Tsutsuji remarks on the coincidence, and they decide to travel the rest of the way together. Mako feels a bit awkward, unsure of what to talk about. Tsutsuji breaks the silence, asking about a keychain attached to Mako's bag. Mako confirms it's a character keychain. Tsutsuji playfully feigns ignorance before revealing she recognizes the character and shares that she also enjoys collecting sheep-themed merchandise. Mako internally acknowledges Tsutsuji's slightly eccentric nature but finds her genuinely nice. Tsutsuji, however, reveals her own sheep item, her hoodie, designed to look like a sheep's face. She demonstrates by pulling the drawstrings, causing the hood to cinch tightly around her face, resembling a sheep. People walking by are shocked to see a sheep waiting for the train. Mako is surprised and advises Tsutsuji that it might be better not to wear the hood like that in crowded public places. Tsutsuji readily agrees to refrain for now. She then asks Mako to tell her more about the character on her keychain. Mako explains that it's Mokotaro, a gourmet video creator known for wearing the costume and speaking very frankly about food. They arrived at the base of Mount Takao and found Shino and Korea already waiting. She laid out the plan. They'd be taking the chairlift partway up to dodge the most brutal part of the climb. Mako and Shino were visibly hyped, both clearly here for vibes over cardio. As the group made their way toward the lift station, Mako's gaze drifted, already tempted by the lineup of souvenir stands and snack stalls. Korea, functioning in full older sibling energy mode, gently reminded her of the budget reality check and redirected her like a seasoned babysitter. Tsutsuji, meanwhile, zeroed in on a vending machine that sold suspiciously powerful-looking energy drinks. Before they went any further, Kureha pulled the group aside for a quick huddle and launched into a slightly over-the-top reminder about sticking together and staying safe, like she was briefing a pack of fourth graders on their first field trip, not a group of semi-functioning college students. They boarded the chairlift. Mako admitted to being low-key terrified, which Kureha addressed with calming, mom-friend energy. A nearby attendant gave the standard "please don't die" rundown, and soon the lift was in motion. Mako and Shino sat together, taking in the rolling views. Shino took this downtime to reflect that Mako had been acting more like her old self lately, high energy, chaotic good, and semi-obsessed with food. Recalling Mako's childhood habit of aggressively playing outside during recess just to build up an appetite for school lunch. Hamburger steak day, apparently, had been her personal Olympics. In the seat behind them, Tsutsuji eavesdropped and found it cute hearing about them during their elementary days. A cameraman on the side told the girls to pose for a picture. Tsutsuji didn't mind, but Kureha found it embarrassing to do on the spot. Meanwhile, Shino hit an anime hero pose with enthusiasm, rocking them, making the staff have to give the standard "please don't rock the lift" warning. At the top station, a staff photographer tried to sell them a photo, but Kureha noped out before he could finish the pitch, Shino surprising her by not wanting the photo after posing. Not long in, Shino spotted a stall selling Mitarashi Dango and made a beeline for it. Mako was right behind her, eyes sharp like an anime protagonist mid-transformation. Kureha and Mako ate, with Mako giving an in-depth food profile on the skewer. Tsutsuji noted how surprisingly passionate she gets around food. Shino was drooling so much, Kureha offered her a bite of hers, which she accepted. The girls started the hike, touching statues, eating ice cream, and praying, but soon the incline kicked in fast. Mako, Shino, and Tsutsuji started to regret every life decision that had brought them to this hill. Kureha, somehow unfazed, credited her stamina to lugging inventory at her family's shop. Mako looked ready to bargain with the hiking gods. Tsutsuji cracked open the energy drink she'd picked up earlier and, after one dramatic gulp, proclaimed herself recharged and unstoppable. She then sprinted ahead with full anime opening energy, only to collapse dramatically not even 5 minutes later. Kureha, without missing a beat, noted the short-lived nature of her limitless power-up. Further along, Mako suddenly stopped. She'd spotted the soba shop, the one from Mokotaro's video. While she didn't explain, Kureha noticed how wrecked everyone looked and suggested they break there. Inside, the place had a chill, retro atmosphere. Shino spotted bottles of ramune and lit up. Mako found the exact dish from the video, Sansai Tororo Soba. She ordered it like she was fulfilling a prophecy. When the food arrived, she dug in like she'd been personally wronged by hunger. Her face made it clear this was peak happiness. She finished every bite, glowing with post-meal bliss. After their break, Kureha suggested stepping outside to take in the view. They did, and it was stunning. The sun was setting, casting everything in that warm, golden... Shino, ever the gremlin, pointed off in a random direction and claimed she could see her apartment. Kureha gently corrected her, noting their neighborhood was in the exact opposite direction. Mako felt something shift. She realized she never would have made this trip on her own. Not the hike, not the meal, not the moment. Being here with them, for once, she wasn't just watching someone else's life from the sidelines. Shino voiced a similar feeling. Shino suggested they keep doing things like this together. Mako nodded enthusiastically. She wasn't just tagging along anymore. She was part of something, and that felt kind of amazing. Kureha decided the moment warranted a group photograph, instructing everyone to say, "Gochiso-sama," a phrase typically said after a meal, meaning "thank you for the meal," as the picture was taken. The episode kicks off in a university classroom just as a German language lecture wraps up. The professor announces an upcoming test, their first major one of the semester. She accepts the challenge like a gamer loading a boss fight, resolving to grind some serious study XP before next week. As the students file out, Mako bumps shoulders with another girl. You'd expect a mutual apology exchange, standard NPC interaction, but instead, the girl gives her an absolute death glare. This frightens the timid Mako, who braces herself for a punch, but the girl just hovers over her, glaring, then walks away. Later, Mako finds herself inside the club room. She opens the fridge to grab her pudding, noticing all the energy drinks Sheep-chan has stored. Shinon had also mentioned recently picking up a part-time job at Kureha Furudate's family restaurant. While she's zoning out, Mako notices someone lingering near the clubroom door. It's that same blonde girl from earlier. But instead of Mako being afraid, it's the opposite. The girl looks terrified and shuts the door. Mako heads to the door, unsure what that was about, figuring the girl might have just gotten the wrong room. She peeks out to see if she's gone. Mako momentarily wonders if this is one of those horror movie moments. Empty hallway, weird vibes, but decides she's just being dramatic, only to see the same girl peeking out from behind a wall, jump scaring her. The The ghost girl then speaks slowly, each word unnervingly drawn out, asking if this is the Food Culture Research Club. Mako confirms. The girl hesitates, and soon the two are inside, but she keeps as much distance between them as possible, making things feel awkward. Then, the girl pulls out a pair of handcuffs from her bag and starts playing with them. This terrifies Mako, who's now convinced she's about to be initiated into some kind of cult ritual. Mako resorts to the oldest trick in the Chaos Gremlin handbook: cause a distraction. She dramatically points to the window and yells about a flying takoyaki. It lands with all the believability of a bad TikTok prank. The girl simply turns and stares at Mako in quiet confusion. With that distraction flopping harder than a failed group project, Mako goes to plan B: escape. She lunges for the door like her life depends on it, only for it to swing open from the other side. Boom. Collision. She chest bumps into Sheep-chan, sending her flying for the second time. Tsutsuji, recovering from the impact, she casually introduces the girl as Nana Hoshi, her former high school classmate. Nana, still clearly in social anxiety hard mode, doesn't say anything, just looks away. But Tsutsuji, prepared for the disbelief, whips out her phone, showing pictures of all of them with Nana back in her high school era. Dark hair, zero aura. The glow-up is extreme enough for Mako to do a double take. Tsutsuji clarifies that the transformation happened. Mako asks the obvious follow-up. If Tsutsuji and Kureya had already been friends with Nana, then why wasn't she in the club? Tsutsuji explains that they did invite her to join the Food Culture Research Club from day one. Nana had declined, back then fully committed to launching her own dream, the Puzzle Club. Mako glances over at the thing Nana had been fiddling with earlier, now recognizing it as one of those metal brain benders your uncle swears improves cognitive longevity. Tsutsuji adds that despite the initial pass, Nana has now changed her mind and wants in. Mako made an excuse to leave, as the girl still wouldn't talk to her. Stepping out momentarily, Nana suddenly screamed, then ran to shake Tsutsuji, not knowing what to do to become friends with the other girl. Tsutsuji calmed her down and asked about the Puzzle Club. In a flashback, the four girls were shown starting university together. Nana was excited to start her own club, but Tsutsuji brought up her extreme fear of strangers, wondering how she'd recruit new members. Nana insisted she had it covered. Her master plan was to put up a sign and silently stand out, waiting for people to join. After a while, she realized this wasn't working, so she decided she needed a more eye-catching look to attract people. So she rebranded. Full makeover. Blonde hair, bolder fashion choices, and makeup with enough eyeliner to intimidate a mid-boss. People noticed and actually liked the look. She re-entered the recruiting scene with new swagger. A curious student asked about Rubik's Cubes. Nana, in full panic mode, made noises that could only be described as Pokemon Cry rejects. The student fled, only to be undone by a single human interaction. Her dream deflated faster than a cheap yoga ball, saying she felt like nothing had changed. Her club idea had flopped, and now she was 99% sure Mako had emotionally blocked her. She begged Tsutsuji to step in before the social tension killed her. Tsutsuji, now playing peace ambassador, nodded solemnly. She declared her loyalty to both girls and vowed to bridge the awkwardness with the passion of a... Returning with snacks, Nana crumbled back into super introvert mode. She launched Operation Vibe Repair. Light small talk about the weather and sports. Desperate times called for desperate cringe. Tsutsuji broke out dance moves, equal parts interpretive and existential, donning her sheep hoodie. Never leave one introvert and two mega ultra introverts in the same room. Then the door opened to the visual equivalent of a system crash. Tsutsuji mid-dance, Mako and Nana stuck in buffering mode. One glance at everyone's faces told them this was a complete social disaster. She casually restarted the conversation. Extroverts, essential for situations like this. Later, Mako found herself locked in Mortal Kombat with her German textbook, her brain clearly losing the fight. Midway through mentally rage-quitting, her thoughts drifted, inevitably, back to Nana. Just as she began to spiral into cringe-induced self-loathing, her phone buzzed with a lifeline. A message suggesting a study session with Nana in the club room on Saturday. Saturday morning rolled around. Mako arrived at the club room to find Nana already there. After a brief, quietly awkward exchange of greetings, Tsutsuji asked about Mako's bag. She explained she thought they might want to cook between study sessions. Mako asked about the other girls, and Tsutsuji told her they were working part-time at the restaurant. The scene cut to Kureya's family restaurant, where Shinon was undergoing her first day of work. She introduced herself with the enthusiasm of a golden retriever on espresso, then assigned her the simple task of shredding cabbage. It took approximately 3 seconds for Kureya to intervene with a soft, gently suggesting Shinon retire from the kitchen battlefield and stick to customer service. Not long after, a mother and daughter asked Shinon for menu recommendations. She openly admitted it was her first day and that the menu was basically a mystery box to her. But then, in classic main character fashion, she said something I now use in my daily life. Meat and oil will never betray you. She passionately pitched the sauce katsudon, painting such a vivid mental image of crispy textures and umami greatness that the customers were instantly sold. 2 bowls, no hesitation. Korea's mother watched the whole performance and made a silent executive decision. Shinon was front of house material, kitchen duties revoked indefinitely. Back in the club room, Mako hit another wall with her German exercises. Mako turned to Nana with hesitant hope. Nana nodded and asked if she could write in Mako's notes. Nana quickly jotted down a clean, comprehensible solution like it was no big deal. Mako was floored. Not only had Nana solved the problem, but she'd also added a tiny, adorable doodle beside the explanation. Mako complimented both the intellect and the aesthetics. That was when Nana began to tremble, like a computer overheating after too many tabs. Suji, who had reappeared with the silent finesse of a social ninja, quietly explained that Nana wasn't upset. She was just malfunctioning from the rare experience of being praised. Stop outing me. Meanwhile, Shinon wrapped up her shift. Korea's mom thanked her for the help, then passed along a gift box of meat for Mako, because apparently, this was the kind of anime where people get surprise pork deliveries. Back at the club, Mako asked for Nana's help with another German hurdle. Nana calmly broke it down, and Mako had a rare. Just as the study vibes began to plateau, Tsuji admitted she was getting hangry. Mako mentioned she'd planned on whipping up basic sandwiches. Cue Shinon's text, armed with the meat package like a protagonist arriving at the 11th hour. The sheer volume of pork was both impressive and vaguely intimidating. With the meat now threatening to overshadow the original lunch plan, Tsuji declared it the perfect excuse for an impromptu welcome party for Nana. Mako asked about Korea, and Tsuji relayed that she'd be joining them later once restaurant prep work wrapped up. Mako turned to Nana and asked about her preferences regarding meat dishes. Nana shyly suggested yakiton, Japanese grilled pork skewers. Tsuji enthusiastically endorsed the idea. Mako then proposed making souvlaki, Greek skewers, mentioning she saw a cooking video by someone named Mokotaro and felt confident she could replicate the dish. Shinon, perhaps recalling her earlier cabbage shredding restriction, eagerly declared her intention to participate in the cooking this time, framing it as revenge for her part-time job experience. Sutsuji kindly instructed Nana, as the guest of honor, to sit back and relax while the others prepared the food. A cooking montage kicked off. Mako took the lead, slicing pork into satisfyingly uniform chunks like a seasoned chef, or at least someone who watches a lot of cooking videos at 2 a.m., mixing with practiced ease. Bell peppers were next on the chopping block, diced into cheerful, bite-sized bits. The skewers hit the frying pan with a satisfying sizzle, the kind of aroma that makes people believe in love again. A picture-perfect platter of fragrant souvlaki and a backup army of well-constructed sandwiches. Right on cue, Korea enters, clearly having mastered the art of arriving just as the food hits the table. Shinon casually claims partial credit, and Korea responds with the look of someone who hadn't expected that plot twist, but approves. The food slaps. Hard. Everyone says so. Even Nana, usually about as expressive as a locked phone screen, lights up as she chews. She thanks Mako in earnest, and it's clear she means it. Post-meal cleanup is swift. Mako suggests powering through a bit more study time, to which Nana nods, then takes a moment to face her. She brings up that hallway incident. Turns out she's been spiral thinking about it ever since. Mako reassures her that she has no problem with her. Cut to test day. The academic boss battle is over. Outside, Nana practically glows as she greets Mako, being a full 180 personality. But Mako takes this as a good sign. They're friends now. The Grud's off to get snacks. Just then, the desk clerk woman appears to talk to Mako, noting that she actually did something the others never do, giving her a heads up about using fire outside. She's come to congratulate Mako on taking the club seriously. Nearby, Nana has pressed herself against a wall like a nervous NPC avoiding a random encounter. The administrator approaches, visibly concerned. Nana, locked in panic mode, stays frozen while the clerk wonders aloud if she's sick or something, leaving them all standing there in an awkward silence.